Welcome back to the NewBeeCast. I'm your host, Goose, and in the studio today I have with me Kyle, a.k.a. SD Surf and Sand.
That's right. Thank you for having me today, Goose.
Yeah, man. How you doing today?
Well, it's just another day in paradise.
That's right, man. I mean, it's very sunny outside here in California, San Diego specifically, and we are inside a studio with black foam surrounding us, like a dark hole that's ready to swallow us.
Yeah, it's, yeah. Ooh, get some.
That snap sponsored by Monster. Not really, but hey, Monster Energy, a.k.a. Coca-Cola, if you'd like to reach out and sponsor the NewBeeCast podcast show, please send me an email at jameson@newbeedrone.com.
You won't be sorry.
Maybe. Anyway, today we're going to talk about mostly Kyle. We're going to segue from how Kyle got into FPV, how he became a sponsored pilot with NewBeeDrone, and then how he ended up working with NewBeeDrone as a employee, and then his daily struggles running the whole customer service backbone of the company.
It's awesome. I love it.
There's some ups and downs, though. It's not always all pretty and fun and ponies and rainbows.
No, but that's just par for the course when you're in customer service.
Sure, yeah. You definitely got to have that patience. I mean, sometimes it might make you feel a little devious at times. But anyway, so why don't you start off with what got you into FPV in the first place? And I'm not talking about like RC cars, like actual FPV stuff, because obviously you were into that before you worked with NewBeeDrone, right?
Right, yeah. So I've been interested in, well, let me go back. I've been in the RC
We're going to
world.
need a time machine?
We might.
Okay.
We'll go with the Wayback Machine here.
I was thinking DeLorean, but that's fine too.
Yeah, it works. So my FPV career started probably almost 10 years ago now. Real actual FPV. I've been flying RC stuff for most of my life, beginning when I was in like junior high. But of course, FPV was not invented back then, and if it was nothing like it was today, and I had no clue what it was.
Sure.
So, just like most everybody else, I found FPV through the internet. They
had that back then, huh?
Oh, I know, right? What, you call me old?
Older.
Yeah, older. It's okay, because I am. So I believe, gosh, I want to say probably one of the very first FPV videos I saw was of this guy in Australia.
Really?
Yeah, not Chad Nowak. We all know him. He's one of our favorites. Snake FPV.
It was Snake FPV?
No, it was not Snake FPV.
Oh, I was going to say, I think that's before him.
No, this is Juz 70. Like these.
Can you repeat that?
Juz. His real name is Justin.
Okay.
But his FPV handle is JUZ70.
Is he still active today?
Yeah, he just recently posted a video not too long ago.
Was he popular? Because I haven't heard of him.
Oh, he's like the OG of FPV. Like everybody,
You better
refers
not say
to
that around
Charpu.
Charpu.
See, a lot of people refer to
Maybe
Charpu as the
in that country.
Maybe in that country, but I think Charpu is probably who really revolutionized popularity. The popularity of.
Yeah, you know what gets me is how into it he was back in the heyday of when it was so difficult to do that stuff, and now that it's like there's so many more options, so much more choices, everything's way easier, everything's way more affordable, and now he decides to stop. Charpu, when we need you the most.
But you know what? He has a pretty awesome job.
Yeah, I know.
He
has a real job and stuff. But what about my feelings?
I don't think he cares.
Although I did get the privilege to fly with him and midair with him, so not many people can say that.
I have raced against him.
Really? How did you do?
I think I won.
Moving on.
Yeah. So going back to the whole getting started in FPV, I found it through the internet. Just saw some videos, and for me, it started with just actually just finding a little stick camera, one of those little
stick camera.
It was literally looked like a little stick. And it was a little 1080 camera, maybe less. And I actually stuck that on a foamy plane. Like I literally taped it to it. And
so were wings your first FPV experience?
Yes, actually, wings were my first FPV experience. I did not actually start in multi-rotors, although they were very close. And intertwined into that experience.
Do you remember what kind of wing?
So my very first FPV fixed wing that I built, because there is a difference between wing and fixed wing. A wing is an actual just a wing.
Right, and the
And
fixed
then
wing
the
is an
fixed wing
airplane.
is basically an airplane, has a rudder, tail,
Sure.
ailerons, and everything.
Dragons have tails too, Kyle.
And wings.
Touche.
Hey, it was what was it called? I want to say it was like something eagle or something. I don't know. It's very similar to the Bixler wing, if you're familiar with that particular. It's
I don't know much about wings.
it's okay. Very basic trainer.
The only one I know is the Capiwari. What's it called?
Oh, the
TBS
Cappy.
one. Yeah, the Cappy.
Yeah, no, it's not anything like that. This is just a
Trappy,
standard.
if you're listening and you want to send me a wing, I'll make a video for you. Feel free.
Yeah.
Continue.
I'll help you.
Yeah.
So I stuck. I flew that for a while and my FPV journey began probably I would say at least 2 years before I actually did real FPV. I was one of the, I was one of those people.
That's a long time before
I know.
you got
Well,
real FPV. What were
because
you doing, fake?
a lot of research. I spent a lot of time on RC groups, which used to be one of the biggest.
And it was
probably
like the
still
only
is.
place to get resources. back
Exactly,
then.
it was the only place to get resources until all these other
People started
forums
posting it on YouTube.
on YouTube.
Before
Yeah,
Joshua Bardwell.
yeah. And so I hooked up with a couple local people that were actually already doing FPV back when it was in its infancy. I had to. I believe there were Fat Sharks back then. I think they were like the original attitudes or teleporters. Very, very basic. You only had Fat Shark band. So,
That's all you
everything.
needed back then, man.
I know. That was all you needed. And
Because who else made video transmitters back then?
nobody.
No.
So,
They were
or
thick.
there was, but they were all out of China and nobody really knew about them yet. But Fat Shark, Immersion RC,
Yep.
creator of Fat Shark. Well, no, I'm sorry. Fat Shark is its own entity. Immersion RC created the receivers,
Right.
or the transmitters, and receivers. Anyways, getting off track here. So I actually, my very first pair of FPV goggles was something that I slapped together, and actually. Going back to Trappy, I had seen he was also one of my inspirations for FPV with his mountain flying and stuff like that, where they used to fly miles into the Swiss Alps.
Yeah, that stuff is pretty cool.
And he had a pair of these goggles that he had cobbled together with an old ski mask.
Really?
And
DIY goggles, huh?
they were basically DIY goggles, yes, because they were originally the ones that he built, I believe, were originally designed for when you're on an airplane to watch movies through your computer. Mine in particular were made by Vuzix, and I remember they were called the Vuzix Rap 920 or something like that. So they basically they were video sunglasses.
Yeah.
And so basically I took the sunglass part off, took the viewing part of it, and stuffed it into an old pair of, cut out the front of a ski mask, and shoved it in there, glued it in, blacked it all out.
Yeah.
And I had this, wire coming down that I had to then connect to essentially a ground station.
Right.
And
Because they didn't have modules or anything back then, right?
No, they didn't really have any
Well,
modules.
if there's
'cause it
no
was
Fat
all-
Shark, there's no.
It was all and if you did have Fat Shark, that all was all built in. So that was back in the day when there was no modules or anything like that. So I built, I had to build a ground station, and I got really into it. I even had this box that I had goggles, and I even had a
Price,
screen.
my first FPV goggle set.
Pretty much. A little bit more expensive, but
Fisher Price stuff kid toys are pretty expensive nowadays, dude.
everything's expensive.
I tried to buy a Power Wheels.
No,
Might as well buy a real car.
I remember my first car.
Me too, unfortunately. Continue.
So Yeah, so my it started out with that those makeshift and those were really comfy. I really like those. Had it set up on a ground station. You know, started out with 5.8 and eventually found long range, which is basically.
Was it 2.3?
No, I never got to the 2.3. It was 433 for control and 1.2, 1.3 for video.
What were you using, Dragon Link or something?
No, I was actually using the Immersion RC.
I didn't even know they had a long range.
They did, yeah. They had a long range. But going back to like the original like Fat Shark ground station, they used to have what was called like an Uno receiver. Do you remember those?
I know the card game.
Yeah, they had an Uno and they had a Duo, and I eventually got around to when my like the height of my ground station days, I had this whole setup that was all like really nice diversity. In this box, I had a screen that would flip up, and then it have like this whole like eagle eyes. I don't know if you're familiar with that either, but
I know the movie.
Okay, just shows you
I don't know if that
how
helps.
old I am in the industry.
Yes. I'm a young child compared to Kyle.
So that's what it started out with fixed wing, and then eventually rolled into multicopters.
What was your first actual like FPV multicopter?
So my very, very first like FPV one was
I'm scared.
it was a 450 size, and it was not a flame wheel.
That's a huge boy.
Well, that's all they had
450.
back then. Back then, when
Yeah.
I first started, there was no such thing as mini quads.
Yeah, when I got into it, the smallest one they had at the time was the 250, the QAV 250.
Yeah, and that was considered
Small. That was a mini quad,
That was a
right?
mini quad. Yes. You know, like when I got into it, the term mini quad had not yet been coined. So it was all the era of the 450, like the flame wheel 450s, and then other variants.
You want to know something weird?
What's that?
I don't even know what the flame wheel is. Is it that DJI one that had like the
Yes.
red and white arms?
Yes.
Oh, we have some of those hanging
I
on the
know.
wall.
Yeah. So yeah, I have one of those. I have a flame wheel too. But my very first quadcopter was actually a Blade, and it was not an Inductrix because I don't think they had that back then yet. But it was a Blade series.
Torrent or something?
I don't know. It wasn't even they didn't have that back then. No, this was a
Was it
a
Horizon
brushed
Hobby?
Horizon Hobby. It was
Yeah.
a DSM brushed micro quad. It was about this. Well, you can't guys see what I'm looking at, but it was about this big, and it was a brushed with
It's about the size of the biggest iPhone they make now.
yeah, basically.
iPhone XS Plus Magnum PI 1000, whatever Apple calls it now.
And so that was my very first. I was in there was a hobby shop down the street that I used to go to all the time, and they're since closed. But I'd go in there for plane stuff, and I'd always see like the helicopter, and I even played with the I did have a helicopter at one time. Not
What
a
kind?
It was the dual blade.
Oh, Chinook? Wait, on the same axis?
Yeah. What are those?
I forget what they because they don't really use those in real life. But
Yeah.
I know
it was just the
yeah, one spins one way, the
yeah.
other one spins the other way. I had one.
coaxial.
Yeah, I had one like that. It was called the Llama.
That was the one I had.
Oh, and it had like the tail boom, but
Yeah.
it was fake. Was it green?
Yeah, it looked like a military
Yeah,
helicopter.
yeah.
That was the very first.
Dude, that thing flew good.
I could never get mine to fly very well.
Oh,
But-
that thing was great.
Yeah, I finally just ended up throwing that thing out because I just got so frustrated with it.
Kyle, no.
I know that also had where like it had like the gyros that you had to like adjust that you could adjust on it.
I don't remember if anyway.
Yeah. So that I had that, and then I went to this Blade series quadcopter. It was brushed with they had brushed and geared. So the brush motors turned to gear,
Right.
which turned the prop. And that was really my first introduction to multi-rotors,
That sounds
like
amazing.
everybody else.
No. Just amazing. Well, compared to what we have now.
Yeah, so it was like one of those. It was like $160, and it came with the controller and everything. So it was basically as a ready to fly kit. I flew that, and then got somewhat okay with it, and then eventually figured out how to put not an FPV camera, that same stick camera that I had on my foaming plane. I put that on there, and that actually carried it somehow. Yeah. And then after that, I actually decided to build my own. This is still before FPV. This was still all line of sight stuff. But I built and this is also in the era when the NASA just started coming out, when it was still just the flight controller.
You mean the NAS?
No, the NASA from DJI.
Oh, okay, yeah.
DJI NASA. And this was just the flight controller.
Yeah.
And its big thing was altitude hold.
Wow.
And the damn thing cost $450.
Just for the flight controller?
Just for the flight controller.
Oh, my God. You guys out there that complain about, like, full, ready-to-fly 5-inch racing builds being 300 or 400, but like imagine just the flight controller alone.
And all you got was altitude hold.
Yeah. And could you even like, was there any beta flight or anything to program it or anything?
They use their own program, but it's kind of like beta flight. It's just a GUI that you go into and you can where you go and set up everything. So I bought the NASA and built my own frame around it, going to basically a Home Depot frame, if you will. Yeah, and some old the back when like ESCs were the size of a brick.
Oh my God, yeah.
And I think they were even at that time. I believe these ESCs were only 12 amp ESCs.
And they're that big.
That's
crazy. Yeah, we still have some in the build room, and they're just like they look like giant Snicker bars.
Yeah, exactly. And this was I bought some big ass 2814 motors, like I think they were like 750 kV, running on like 10-inch props.
10-inch prop. Holy.
Yeah. And it's funny because
there's only like dual blade back then, right?
Dual blade.
Yeah. There's no like tri-blade or anything.
No, not at that point. Tri-blade hadn't really been popularized. And so the very first time I went to go fly it, I think it was a 3S battery, big old 3S battery, and the thing wouldn't take off. It just spooled up but it wouldn't take off.
Yeah. So the 3S was not enough.
What's that?
The 3S obviously was the problem.
No, I had my props on backwards.
Oh. I was gonna say maybe it's not enough power to lift that big ass thing.
No, it was. It actually when it flew really well. So yeah, but eventually I got to building up my FPV, and like I said, the first frame I bought was a 450 size frame, a dead cat style frame.
Dead cat style? What is that?
Dead cat? You don't know what dead cat is? It's where the front
cat
arms
that stopped living. I don't know.
Have you seen the video where the guy turned his cat into a quadcopter?
Yes.
Okay, that's basically dead cat. Not actually. I didn't actually make a dead cat copter.
Well, I haven't seen underneath the cat. So.
No. So dead cat is it's the way that the front arms are wider out this way than the back arms like this. So it keeps that was the style back then. And so again, put the NOS on there, but and so then built my FPVs. Finally had all my FPV stuff ready, and I'll have to show you some of my first FPV videos. They're awful.
Can't wait.
They're awful. But Jello Nation, man, with the Hero 2.
The Hero 2. I didn't even get into GoPros at all until the Hero 4.
Yeah,
man.
Hero 2 was my first.
I feel like GoPro. A young little goose, still in the egg.
I could
incubating.
The stuff I could tell you. But yeah, so that was.
How much was $1 worth back then?
A lot more than it is today.
Dang.
Yeah. So my very first time flying FPV, took it down to the park and proceeded to pretty much just smash it into the ground.
This giant monster of a thing.
Yeah, like I was flying.
Was it noisy?
Oh, it was, yeah.
Like an aircraft carrier taking off?
Yeah. It was pretty fun. So, but
were you flying at FPV or line of sight?
FPV. Yeah. And
what camera did you use back then? I mean, who made the cameras back then?
They were literally just security cameras.
Oh, the CCD cameras or whatever?
Well, they're still CCD or CCD cameras, but there's it was literally just a huge ass board camera.
Yeah, with a lens attached.
With a lens. Yeah. I think we probably have some here in the office of the old school ones that I could show you what they look like, but Yeah, and of course mounted looking straight ahead.
Yeah, like 0 degrees.
0 degrees. That was like even the frames were meant so that these cameras would and this is also back when they're still using like G10 for everything.
Oh my gosh.
And
I remember like when I was looking at the QAV 250, I remember G10 was an upgrade.
Was it from Carbon?
No, maybe there was a G10 version and there was a Carbon version. That's
Yeah,
what it was.
and everybody used to do the G10, and then because Carbon was really expensive.
Yeah.
And they weren't really sure about it at that time, and then obviously eventually everything came over to Carbon.
Yeah.
Because weight and all that stuff now.
Yeah. And it got cheaper to make because
But so and then there's a lot of people that from back in the day that were super popular that just kind of just disappeared.
Fizzed out.
Yeah, like Metal Danny. Man, that guy.
I remember the name, but I didn't ever follow him.
One of those European dudes that really made racing in the woods and stuff popular. You have to look up some of his videos. Yeah, like Metal Danny. He's not around anymore. As far as I know. And there's a bunch of European guys that would do racing in the woods. They had like whole tracks.
Yeah, you know what? I do remember that now. I remember certain videos, and I was like, "Oh my god, how do they not hit all the trees?"
Yeah, and and then eventually the blackout frame came around.
That one was a really popular one.
Yeah, what's his name? That's actually the guy's name. Blackout. I think it was Blackout the Drunk. Was his FPV name or something like that? Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but. He's the one who really made the mini quad frame popular.
Yeah, because that was kind of like the QAV 250 style, right?
Yeah.
Because I think the QAV 250 came after that, right?
It did.
Yeah. And I knew Steele flew those way back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember watching his like YouTube videos, like blackout frame. I was like, oh, dude, the frame was very expensive though. I think it was like $300 or something.
Frames used to be really expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
guess what? No one complained back then.
No, because that's what it was. This was still such an emerging sport hobby or an emerging part of the hobby that people were still kind of cobbling parts together from other parts of.
Yeah, they were just like grateful like stuff existed, and now it's like,
yeah,
if I can't have it my way and the price I want, screw you guys.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I mean, I think we're pretty much and this is a conversation we have often, but race to the bottom as far as cost goes.
Right.
Which is kind of sad, but what can you do?
Sad but true.
I mean, unless people just stop crashing all the time and stop breaking their stuff, but then we wouldn't have anything to sell.
I don't see that happening.
No. But yeah, that's
so that was your first quadcopter. So
of many.
Yeah. So how did that transition you into becoming a team pilot for NewBeeDrone? Because obviously you got sponsored before you worked for them, right?
I did. Yes. Yeah. So
tell me the story, Kyle. Please.
Tell you the story.
Yeah.
So many, many, many years later, and many, many, many quads builds. I don't even remember how many I've done over the years. I don't even want to count.
Question.
So,
did you ever find a quad in a cereal box prize? Like, how they give prizes in cereal boxes sometimes?
Oh, God, I wish. No.
Oh, me neither. Okay.
That would be really cool, though.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is that what you want? That's what I want.
That's what you want.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I was just like everybody else, had started posting my videos on Instagram. And when I first started, I was more of a like aerial videography type stuff, like DJI, stabilized video. And I was just starting to get into racing, and there was a small group of us that would get together, and some of us were like wing pilots and / quadcopter pilots, and but there was an original group of guys that really kind of, I want to say, brought the FPV community to light in San Diego, and I like to think that I was part of that, but
it's nice to pretend.
Yeah. Well, it's weird because like there's a lot of the newcomers that come around. They're like, "Oh, Kyle, I remember you were like one of the original guys I saw your videos and blah 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 blah." And I'm like, "Oh, okay, thanks. That's cool."
Dang, look at you, Mr.
I know,
Popular.
right?
Woo.
Not so much anymore, but so yeah, what led me to becoming a team pilot was I had been posting stuff up and watching other people's stuff, and when I had noticed there's this one guy that was flying at a field close by to where we work now that I recognized and had been there a couple of times, and had said, "Hey, let's meet up and fly here, sometime." Mm-hmm. And so we did, and he's the one that brought me into the NewBeeDrone fold, I guess you could say. We both know who it is, but should I say his name? Does it matter?
First name.
Ryan?
Yes.
Okay.
For those of you who don't know, he was a old co-owner of the company that's no longer with us, and that's where we'll leave that.
Yeah. So I became friends with him. And
did he offer you free candy or something when you met him?
No, thank God.
Was he like, "Hey, you want some free candy?"
But so we actually had only flown together a few times, but always kind of talked and talk shop and stuff like that. And he somehow got involved with with the current owner of NewBeeDrone, and this was actually back before NewBeeDrone even existed, I think. And funny story, I actually the very first time I met Kelvin and Max. Mm-hmm. was at a meetup over at the old college that is
a meetup. What do you mean by meetup?
Okay, so there was a meetup, and this was more for like DJI type people, mm-hmm. And it was at the old college that is on the other side on Arrow or off of Balboa, the tech college that closed down recently.
No idea what you're talking about.
Colvin College.
Still no, but
doesn't matter. Anyways, there was a meetup there, and I remember Max and Kelvin actually showed up with 2 boxes full of stuff that they were trying to sell. And
really?
Yeah. Huh. And it was the Hollybro stuff. This is back when they started when they were doing Hollybro. No, not even Shuriken didn't even exist back then. It was like the Pixhawk type stuff.
Yeah. Okay. The flight controllers.
Flight controllers, yeah. And so anyways, that was my first I was my thanks for showing me that.
Yes.
That was my first time meeting those guys, and I stop that. Little did I know that become good friends and eventually coworkers.
Did you buy something from them?
I did not, no. But when
so they were just like slinging quad parts, and
they were trying to, yeah.
And you're like, "What's up, Gav? Can I be your friend?"
But I don't know if I don't remember if I talked to him or not. But yeah. So going back to how I got involved, started hanging out, flying with Ryan, and then he's like, "Oh, I met some people. They want me to test these motors." This was back when they started doing LD power, and I was like, "Oh, if you need somebody to test something, let me know, because I'm like, I fly all the time, and I would be happy to help you test stuff out." Mm-hmm. It's like, "Okay, I'll talk to him." And
yeah,
that never really happened as far as doing the testing stuff. But and then I noticed
he honeypotted you, bro.
He did. And then I noticed that there was a new company opening, a new FPV company opening up in San Diego.
How did you notice that? Because they don't have a brick and mortar store.
They were not a brick and mortar store. No, it was all online. Mm. And I can't remember if he actually told me about it or not. Actually, no, I found out by myself because him and Max Galkin, another previous co-owner, mm-hmm. They were showing up at local meetups, and this was for all flyers. And we had a.
Do they still have? I've never even heard of those local meetups here now. Do they still not?
It was through meetup.com, and then they wanted to start charging them, so they shut that down.
Really?
And went to Facebook. So there's still a San Diego drone meetup group on Facebook.
Does that even happen anymore?
It's not as popular as it used to be. But this
Everyone's
used to.
been segregated by the FC you use.
I don't know.
Or the radio you use.
Or if you're playing or quadcopter. Anyways, there's
what
still a core group that meets every once in a while from the original. So they started showing up to those, and eventually I found out through the grapevine about NewBeeDrone, and I'm like, oh my god, this is awesome because there's no other the local hobby shops. Still at that point had not really gotten fully involved into the multi-rotor scene. Yeah. So, I still had to, the main stores at that time were like Ready Made RC and Get FPV.
Ready Made RC was around back then, huh?
Yeah. Wow. Ready Made RC and...
That's Mr. Tyler, right?
No, that's Race Day Quads.
Oh, okay. I always get those two confused.
Yeah. No, Ready Made RC and Get FPV are like the OG FPV stores. Mm-hmm. So... that was the main source for FPV parts back then, and then little shops would open up here and there, and online, and they would come and go, and sometimes you could find parts at these other stores that you couldn't at the bigger shops because they were carrying the more obsolete or not the parts that weren't really known yet but were up and coming, when NewBeeDrone opened, I started bugging them. I'm like, hey, look, I'm kind of at the point where I'm looking for sponsorship now. And
did they even have any like team pilots back then?
They did. So James the Ripper was actually their very first team pilot.
Right.
And I had known him from the racing scene, and I'm like, oh, hey, maybe you can hook me up, talk to him or whatever. And,
yeah.
At that point, I still didn't know that Ryan was part of NewBeeDrone.
What did you think he was?
I don't know. I just thought he was some guy that knew people.
Oh, okay.
And so, I hit them up on Instagram, and I direct messaged them, and I was like, hey guys,
can I have some candy?
No. I said, hey, look, I noticed you guys brought on James the Ripper. He's a great pilot. Maybe if you're looking for somebody else, I'd really like to, maybe become a team pilot. And for a while they're like, oh, well, we're just starting, we don't really need anybody at the moment, but, let us know and, keep hitting us up. And so that's what I did. I just kept bugging them.
So basically,
and they already knew, and see, Ryan already knew who I was. He knew that I could fly.
Yeah.
So I think eventually he convinced the boss to bring me on as a team pilot.
Right.
And at that time I still had a regular 9 to 5. Actually, at that time it was like an 8 or like a 5 a.m. to 2 p.m. job, which is great for flying because you get off work and go fly every afternoon.
Sure.
But still a full-time job. So that was I was probably a team pilot for a good year before I started quote-unquote working with NewBeeDrone.
How many team pilots came on before you actually started working for NewBeeDrone?
There were 3 of us, maybe 4 including you. Because remember we had the kid from...
Oh, Timmy. Was that before you started working?
That was before I started working.
Okay.
And then he kind of dropped off the
yeah, he got interested in motocross stuff, I think.
Did he?
Yeah, I believe that's what he said.
He was also studying for his real pilot's license, too.
I don't know. But
anyways, so yeah, so the original team pilots were, and you may have been a team pilot before me. I can't remember.
I don't know. I don't think so, but.
Or they were considering you because I remember seeing video of you on the
Bonzo Bridge. Oh, well, the Bonzo Bridge was before that.
Yeah, that too. And I think that's when you were still just kind of talking to them, and I think you were in town and just hanging out with them.
Yeah.
And I didn't get invited to that, but that's neither here nor there.
You missed some great. Well, basically, I'm going to censor the name, but when so and so flew a certain house frame,
I heard about that,
and just full sent it, whee, and it just disappeared.
He was pretty notorious for doing that shit.
Yeah.
Stuff. Sorry.
Yeah. It happened on multiple occasions.
Yeah. So I've heard.
Yeah, I don't believe I ever saw a successful flight without damage or losing the quad completely from that party member.
Yeah. So
And it was funny because Calvin would spend all the time building these custom cutout carbon fiber frames that they made. They were called the house frames at the time.
I had a few.
Yeah, because like it literally the top of it was shaped like a house. Funny
it's
enough.
hilarious.
I didn't even know how that started. Like who was like, yeah, let's make a house. Was that Max?
That was probably Max's idea.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
And I think he told me the story because this was before I was a team pilot or working for the company. They had already, because I remember I was the very first person to accept an order from NewBeeDrone. I came in, I ordered like $500 worth of stuff from them, and came and picked it up at 7:00 at night on the very first day that they opened up the web store.
Wow.
Yeah. And
what did you order? That's a lot of stuff.
Enough for like 2 builds, and they also gave me a house frame.
For free?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So.
Did you have enough stuff to build the house frame?
Oh, yeah.
Did you know you were going to get the frame for free?
I don't remember. But, yeah. So, anyways.
What frames were you using back then besides the house frame?
Oh, gosh. ZMR, 250, bunch of other randoms. I don't know. I honestly can't remember. There's been so many.
Yeah.
Like I literally just cleaned off my my workbench at home, and I had a drawer full of old frames that I just tossed. I have a habit of keeping those things around just in case I want to like rebuild something or repurpose something. And I looked at it, I'm like, I'm never ever gonna use these. Most of them were like beat up and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just tossed a whole bunch of stuff out, including like 3 house frames.
Aww.
I'm like, good riddance.
Dang.
Yeah. So Team Pilot. That was back in the day when I was heavy into racing. Like
we should build a house frame with updated electronics and give it to Vanover to fly at a race.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Like the announcer's like, yeah, appears a house is leading the pace lap right now.
Right.
Just put like little tiny balloons on it, like the house from Up.
That would be
the little
hilarious.
Old man hanging on.
That would be hilarious. We should do
right?
that. Write that down.
Okay. Okay, it's done.
Yeah. Okay. This was back when I was really heavy into racing, and finally it was nice to have a sponsor, behind my name. Say, hey, yeah, awesome, sponsored by NewBeeDrone. And it's, I wouldn't say it was like, sponsorship is different for everybody. And this was just at this time it was mainly discount on some stuff, and every once in a while they throw me some free stuff to test. But it was still nice, and a local company that I could represent. And then moving forward in how I actually started working for NewBeeDrone, I had lost my job. And so I was actually out of work for. Go ahead.
Stop it. Get some help.
Yes.
Stop.
So, pause for effect.
Yeah.
I had lost my job, and I was out of work for about 6 months, and this was I think back in 2016. That's when I started with the company. Officially started, I think, was 2017, January 2017. But I was like, hey, if you guys need me to do anything, I was kind of at the point where I was, I hadn't found a job yet, and I was kind of bored and really didn't have anything to do. I was like, hey, if you need me to do something, if I can help you guys out around the office, let me know. I wasn't even asking for pay. And at that point, this is back when the B-Brain V1 came out. Back when we had to pack that by hand in the office in San Diego.
So, like in the actual product packaging?
Product packaging, yes. So the boards would come in, already in their little, what's this? The static bags.
The anti-static bags.
Yeah, and but we still had to put the
cardboard label and then staple it.
And pack the grommets and the screws into those little bags.
Yeah.
So we had a
dude. I remember on this round glass table, and I remember someone was like wearing a mask.
Yeah, it was like one of
gloves
I think it was Max's old girlfriend.
Yeah. Were they like really toxic or something?
I don't know.
Maybe it's just like when you have thousands of these little rubber things fresh from the
I
factory.
mean, they did after a while. You know, you look and your fingers are all black and shit. And
Oh
stuff.
yeah,
So, but yeah. So they would like, oh yeah, we need to put some of these kits together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, all right, I'll come in, and I'd come in the afternoon and sit there, and I'd have the screws, and have the grommets, and I'd have the little bag, and then have like a little spoon, and like literally spooning four of each into these little Ziploc bags, like the tiny Ziploc bags.
Yeah.
And then then those would go in a pile, and then you have all the stuff, and then you get the big anti-static bag, and then you put the flight controller in there, you put the grommets and screws in there with it, and then you'd have the cardboard hang tag that you would have to fold. Those are not even folded. You'd have to fold them. And
they weren't even pre-folded?
They were pre-folded. Well, they had the they
perforated.
weren't folded.
Yeah.
But they had the crease.
Oh,
so
okay.
you just, but they also didn't have the little, because these were the hang tags, so you could actually, if somebody wanted to put them on like a shelf.
Yeah.
So you even had to like punch those things out.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh, it was anyways. So I do that for a few hours, and sometimes longer than I should have. And they would pay me in parts and feed me food and stuff like that.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Dude, even now, like now that I'm into racing and stuff now, like remember when we were gonna have to come in? I'm gonna censor this information because it's classified information, but we were gonna have to like come in a couple hours early to do some stuff, and they're like, oh yeah, we'll compensate you guys a little extra. Yeah. Like even stuff like that, I'd be like, I'll take a couple micro Swift cameras for the racing because I know I'm gonna smash a bunch of those anyway.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, so
I'll work for parts. I play.
Work for parts,
please.
So basically, it's like I kind of liken it to a motorcycle club where they have the for the guys that are just.
Have you been in a motorcycle club?
No, but I watch shows.
Because everything on TV is very accurate.
Yes. So they have the hang-arounds. So, and then I don't know. There's like the guys that come in and they kind of have to. They're kind of like the worker bees, and they do things for the.
I don't know
for
what
the
that
club.
moan was for.
I said worker bees.
No, but then you went.
I know.
What was that for?
Because never mind.
I'm scared.
You should be. Anyways, so kind of like, basically, I believe it was. I want to say actually Max Galkin that. Eventually convinced them to bring me on as an actual employee. Yeah. Because they were starting to grow, and at that time, Max and his previous girlfriend were doing all the packing in this really small room, probably about the size of the room.
Yeah, it's about the room we're in now for the studio.
Except add shelves. And everything. And so.
Yeah, that office is crazy small.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Anyways, it was a good place to start, though.
Yeah.
But the packing and warehouse room were about the size of a large walk-in closet.
Yeah, it was very small.
So that's where, and then so eventually they brought me on part-time, so a few days a week, doing the packing, orders. And then also handling some customer service stuff, because at that time it could be done together.
Right.
And so that's and then eventually brought me on full time, and that's kind of how my career at NewBeeDrone started.
So you started doing shipping stuff.
Yes.
And then we moved to the new office, and you were still running the warehouse and all the shipping stuff for a while.
Yeah, about 2 years now.
Yeah, and then it got to the point where we're selling so much more products, and we have such a larger and more diverse group of product that needs support for. Like, we were all kind of, all of us, like me, Max, we were kind of each handling, and like you would go on Facebook, we were all kind of micromanaging some support stuff, but it was just not enough. We just needed like one person dedicated. All they do is answer tickets and support related stuff. So then we brought you in, and we hired another person to do all the shipping stuff now.
Right.
And so this is the third thing I want to cascade into is the customer service side, because obviously they're in every job, not just, this job or,
Yeah.
dealing with customer service is a challenge at times. A lot of the times.
Yeah, it can be. It can be very rewarding, but it can also be a huge downer sometimes.
Speaking of rewarding, you remember that order we got
Oh yeah.
earlier today with the giveaway?
From one of our local guys, actually.
Yeah, some guy was just really pleased with our company and how we handle stuff.
Can we say it?
I don't know.
Can we
I'm
say
not
his
gonna say the name just because
Okay.
I don't know yet. But yeah, he was just like really happy with everything, and he was like, "Oh, don't worry about the people that are hating on you guys. Like, you guys are doing awesome stuff." And he bought one of our new Hummingbird flight controller boards, and he wants
That's
us
a kit,
to give it away.
actually.
A whole kit, and he wants us to give it away on our Instagram to like a random customer. So he paid for us to give away
Yeah.
a flight controller to a random customer.
Right.
So that's
Yeah.
like when customers are really awesome when they do stuff like that.
Yeah, and we've had a few people do that for us in the past.
Yep, that's right.
Because there can be a lot of Facebook and the internet in general. It seems like there's a lot of keyboard warriors out there that are just.
You know what it is? It's that most people who are happy and don't have any problems, there's no real motivation for them to go online and write up a
Right.
bunch of stuff. But
Exactly.
if people are having a good time, there's no issues, they'll just fly it. But people will only like get online and post stuff usually if there's a problem where they're unhappy.
Right.
So
right.
you don't get to see the full spectrum of happy versus pissed off customers. You only see the ones that are mad enough to go on and start typing on.
And a lot of times it seems like there's more of the negativity than there is the positivity. But I think if you were to look at it as a whole,
yeah,
I think the positivity probably.
I think we would be out of business if there was more
exactly
angry customers than
exactly
happy customers.
Yeah. So going back to the whole customer service thing, and I've been in the customer service industry pretty much my whole career, not just with NewBeeDrone.
Dang, gang, right there, man.
I mean, my job that I was at I was at my previous job that I was at. I was there for 10 years almost.
Wow.
And it was all customer service oriented. I was basically a call service agent for a certain industry. Nothing bad, but I was basically handling calls on a day-to-day basis, tickets, handling situations, but it was all for clients of the company that use their product. And just like for NewBeeDrone, I come in and take a look at the tickets on a daily basis, and I try stay positive. I know that this hobby is a mainly do-it-yourself type hobby.
Yeah, it's very. It's a hobby. A lot of hobbies are do-it-yourself. That's
Right.
why it's not like a mainstream consumer.
It's not just cut and dry.
Right. Yeah.
But we are trying to make certain products that are easy, very user friendly to use, where you can literally just open the box and do a couple steps and it'll fly.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day basis, and a lot of it really depends on the product too. We've had our BeeBrain Lite line now since December about. Is that when
The BeeBrain Lite?
the BeeBrain Lite?
Yeah, I think because we did the Christmas special for it.
Right,
So yeah,
right.
it is Christmas.
So so that's been the main focus of support these days. We've had our trials and tribulations with it. Mainly one major part of it, I'm sure everybody knows what it is. The board flies amazing. I don't think I've had one complaint about how well the board flies.
Yeah, I think you could say it. It's just sometimes we have delays on certain products for certain things, like the DSM Lite.
Yeah.
Is the big thing everyone's waiting on
Yep,
right now,
yep.
and
Lots of emails and tickets asking those people that have placed their orders back in December now.
yeah, and it's what it really is a lot of companies, they will if they have a product and there's a bunch of people waiting to get it and they know there's a huge demand, if they find a problem or that there might be a problem, a lot of places would just like push it out just to catch the hype and the sales. And what we're actually trying to do is, okay, we discovered, it's not always a problem, but it might affect some customers. So instead of just pushing something out that might give people a bad experience, might create more support workload for us and just overall less customer satisfaction and hurt our reputation, we'd rather spend some time and figure out the problem and make sure there's no possibility of that potential issue than, just rush it out for the sake of getting money.
And that's exactly what happened with the DSM.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people go, oh, you don't like DSM or you're not supporting it.
No, and also DSM, the protocol is a lot harder to develop.
Yeah, that's right, because FreeSky is open source, so the code is readily available to develop for. Then we don't actually have the code for DSM. We just have to make our own that's compatible with their protocol, because it is all copyright and stuff by them.
So it's not like we don't care about the DSM community. We do.
Yeah, but on another honest side, like it is significantly less of our user base that use DSM.
I would say yes. It seems that FR Sky is probably the larger of our user base.
Yeah, there's just more options for cheaper radios.
Yeah, the radios are less expensive. Of course, with less expensive, sometimes comes less quality.
True. Yeah, Spectrum makes amazing quality radios.
Oh, dude, their radios are fantastic.
DX9 Black Edition, that's my bae right there.
Yeah, and so we have no hate whatsoever for DSM at all. Yeah. I know we joke a lot about it. Team failsafe, blah 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 blah. But when it comes down to it, they've been around longer. They know what they're doing.
Yeah.
They make fantastic products.
And it's good to support, like local companies in our own country and stuff, because they're innovating and creating jobs for all of us.
Right.
But there's just way less options for receivers. Not even bringing up price points and all that, because I know working for a company that like, if you have overhead, you have employees, you have to charge a certain amount for stuff. Otherwise, you're not going to be in business, Especially in the US.
You still have to make some sort of profit off it, and that's one of the hurdles in this industry now, is that there's really not a whole lot of profit to be made off of any of this stuff.
Yeah,
the margins are so low.
Yeah, there's so much stuff now that just gets cloned overseas and produced as cheaply as possible.
Right.
And there's a lot of people in the industry who don't look at the long run. It's like, yeah, okay, you can get this thing right now for this much cheaper, but how long is it going to last? How much money are you going to spend in the long run replacing it or fixing it a bunch of times versus paying more upfront to get something that's good quality that will actually last the whole time?
Right.
And then when you buy that cheaper stuff, you're also not getting any product support. Like we have a lot of customers who don't buy our products, they'll buy another. I'm not going to say any specific board names, but they'll buy a different board, and then they'll come to us for support because that company doesn't even offer any support.
Yeah.
And that's what you get. Like when you buy more expensive stuff, you're getting higher quality components, higher quality manufacturing.
Exactly.
And then that also helps cover the overhead of us doing constant support every single day for your product if you need it.
Right. And I mean, and I'm sure you've heard us talk about this before, but we are a very small team.
Yes.
5 people?
Let's see, there's me, you, Chris, Darren, and Calvin in the office right now.
And then Lynn for shipping.
Yeah.
So there's literally 6 of us, and each of us has our own specific role.
Even though we all cover lots of different things.
But we also, yes, we're flexible in certain senses where we can, help elsewhere. But we all really focus on the one main role, and mine is customer service. And I mean, right now, my ticket queue right now, my open ticket queue right now is about 260 tickets that I'm working on at any given day.
Yeah, and people, this is not to bash anyone who asks for help or goes, why isn't my ticket being open? Because if you don't know, I can understand why you might think it's being ignored or whatever. But what you have to take in mind and consider is that, okay, you open a ticket, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, okay, we read the ticket and we got to establish, okay, what's going on? And then we go back and forth and verify the details, and then we got to go through troubleshooting steps with you. And every time you send a reply back, maybe someone went to work, so they can't reply it for a few hours, or maybe someone's like, I'm not home, or...
I would say the main struggle with that is that a lot of times my responses go to people's junk spam boxes.
Yeah.
And depending on how they have that set up, sometimes it just gets deleted, I think.
Yeah, and so one ticket can take hours and hours of back and forth communication because it's like a one-on-one convo with someone.
It really is.
And you're trying to troubleshoot it with someone that may not have ever done this stuff. This may be their first time using this kind of stuff, and they just don't have the background knowledge of how to do this. So you times that by 200 tickets, you can see how overwhelming that is. And it's like, people are like, well, why don't you just hire more people? It's like, yeah, that's fine, but there's a few problems with that. Number one, you have to find people that are knowledgeable in the industry, which is very hard to do. Even if you're like paying outrageous money, it's still hard to find someone in general.
And we could find somebody, we can give them a checklist of stuff, but then it's just like calling an outsourced company.
Yeah, and we don't want to do that. We want people that actually can diagnose and figure out and help as efficiently and quickly as possible. And then it's like, okay, well, now we're paying another person, so then that's another salary, more insurance, more overhead we have to provide. And then it's like, okay, well, if we keep adding on costs, we have to raise the prices of things. You know, there's a balance we have to keep without having to raise prices for products. Yeah.
So, you know, we're also trying to constantly figure out a more efficient way to handle the support system. You know, how fast can we, you know, and a lot of times even speed is not a good thing in support, because if you're just looking for a quick answer, I can give people a quick answer.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to be super accurate. Doesn't mean it's going to be the right answer all the time. You know, but I really want to make sure that I give everybody the attention that they really deserve. Right. You know, because we pride ourselves on making a superior product, and along with the cost, you know, I know that our stuff is not the most inexpensive stuff.
Right.
You know, but along with that, the price that you're paying, you're also getting the support that you may not necessarily get with another company.
That's very true.
And that's one of the things that I pride myself on. And Jameson's has seen this many, many times. I'll be going through tickets, and sometimes I just get so frustrated that I have to step away.
Yeah, like it gets so, again, I'm not going to name any names or say what it's about just for the privacy of our customers and respecting that. But some people, if we don't reply within like 30 minutes, they'll just open a new ticket start replying and going, why are you ignoring me? This is horrible customer service. And it's like, man, we can only physically do so much at one time.
So if you've been one of those customers that you feel has been ignored or hasn't gotten the proper support that you think you should have,
blame Kyle.
You can blame me. That's fine. Just know and understand that you know, I take my job very seriously. This sport, hobby, whatever you want to call it, is a passion of mine. Always will be. And I pride myself on really making sure that I take care of everybody the best that I can within the limits that I am allowed.
Yeah, and to back that up or reinforce that even more, we are not in this for the money. We have very basic salaries here. Like some people think, oh, you guys must be making that crazy money. You sell a bunch. No. We have very average salaries here. So there's definitely other careers we could be doing that would make more money and stuff like that. But we do this because it's our passion, and not only do we love flying and building, but we love helping other people, and that's exactly
right.
Why we do that.
And I always my favorite thing to tell people is that, you know, we couldn't be here doing what we love to do without your guys' support. You know, so the people that are getting angry with us about, bad support, well, you may think that, but we wouldn't be able to, you know, it's not in our best interest to be that way.
Yeah.
You know, we're here for you guys. We're not here for us.
Yeah, but believe it or not, this may be a crazy concept, but the happier people are with our products, the less problems they have, the less returns we have, and the more we sell, the more likely we're to have a paycheck at the end of each month and be able to afford to pay our rent.
Exactly.
So it is in our best interest to make you guys as happy as possible.
Yeah.
It's not just, I don't feel like it today. It's if the company fails, we are out a job. Yeah.
So I think
We're getting
almost out of
pretty
time.
close to the hour right now. Is there anything last thing you want to say to wrap up the customer service stuff?
Just a big thank you to everybody out there that supports us. And we try and support you as best as possible. So just again, if you have any issues, we're always here for you guys. So don't be afraid to contact us and yeah, that's about it.
Cool. Very well said, Kyle. Well, I want to thank you for coming in and
Thank you for having me.
taking your time to tell everyone about your wonderful life story of FPV.
And sorry that I was out for an hour. I'll go back to answering tickets now.
Yes, I'm sure there will be lots of angry people, but maybe once they hear this, they'll understand a little more. We'll
Awesome.
have to see. Cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and listening to this week's episode of the NewBeeCast. We will be back next week, and I believe our team pilot Pinchtune, a.k.a. Danny, will be on here, and I'll be talking to him about doing custom builds with 5-inch racing stuff and even freestyle stuff. That'll be more of a technical cast, but I think it should be fun. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, guys, and we will see you next week.
It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world.